This video details a framework for open source clinical trial reporting. It is motivated by the question of whether or not we can report clinical trials using open source software, and if so, what would a solution look like? Welcome to this presentation. My name is Chris Rook, and I'm a consultant statistical programmer. This is part 2 of an end-to-end framework for clinical trial reporting using open sources. The focus here is on production and validation of patient profiles for individual subject narratives. A full working prototype with single-click production and validation without driver files will be presented. Bundled PDFs and RTFs are included along with user interfaces for ad hoc reporting. Individual subject narratives tell a subject's trial story using standard pre-written textual paragraphs with information often presented chronologically. The narrative text will contain intentional blanks where each subject's data values are entered. A consistent format is used across subjects and includes demographic data, adverse events, labs, vital signs, and disposition, among other domains. Statistical programmers shall provide the data, and medical writers will complete the narratives. Patient profiles are stacked listings and include a header section that contains derived information not in listings. They are delivered by statistical programmers as individual PDF and/or RTF files, then bundled and hyperlinked with a table of contents. It should be feasible to reuse individual CSR listing code. Under the proposed framework, a delivery is generated by launching a shelf file that will invoke in our program to determine which subjects require narratives. The narrative metadata is then read for this run ID, and corresponding patient profiles are generated. Based on cores available, we can background process a fixed number of subjects to save time. Once all patient profiles are generated, post-processors are launched for bundling, bookmarking, and linking. The table of contents is then generated, as is an issue report from scanning log files. We also use the log files to identify all functions invoked for this run, then copy and hyperlink the code. Lastly, the files are zipped for delivery to relevant stakeholders. Patient profile listings will use the TLF metadata, which has a column to indicate which records apply. Listing 2.1 is shown above. Note that the subset parameter will be used to filter each listing to a specific subject. When the script file is launched, it will read this metadata and convert it to a set of instructions for generating each patient profile. The first N profiles are launched concurrently in separate threads by invoking the parameterized driver file, which is written in R Markdown. Formatting instructions such as font type and size, along with page size, orientation, and margins are set in the generic R Markdown driver file, thus will be applied consistently across patient profiles. We will now produce and review the patient profiles. All narrative listings in this delivery are zipped into a single file, which is extracted. To navigate the delivery, we open the table of contents, which lists the subjects that meet the requirement for narratives. This is the individual subject narrative for subject 18, which contains individual narrative listings. We refer to this as the patient profile for subject 18. The actual narrative is usually written text. Listings are created as HTML widgets with controls for selecting the number of rows to display per page, as well as for fast navigation. It is generated using R. Below the listing is a link back to the top, along with links to several related files. The data table, XBT file, text file, RTF file, PDF file, and RTF table are all generated using R. There are also links to the generic driver file and function that were invoked to create this listing. Note that the last footnote also indicates the function that was invoked to create this listing. Below the last listing is a link back to the table of contents, as well as links to a combined Subject 18 PDF file generated using Python and a combined Subject 18 RTF file generated using R. Both are hyperlinked, and lastly there is a link to the log file which will indicate whether or not this patient profile was generated with errors. The table of contents is generated as an HTML file using R. Similar to narrative listings, there are links to various related files. There are also links to a bundled PDF file generated using Python that is bookmarked and hyperlinked, a bundled RTF file generated using R that is hyperlinked, an overall log check report covering all narratives in this run, and the script file that was launched to generate all narratives in this run. Any patient profile generated previously can also be produced with the user interface. This shiny app allows medical writers and clinicians to view the patient profile listings between deliveries when ATOM datasets are updated. Caution is in order as these patient profiles will not have been validated. We can select a subject, view the metadata, and produce the narrative listings. All links work as before, and there is an additional link to download the entire package as a zip file for this unvalidated patient profile. A patient profile user interface can also be generated using Python. As with the shiny patient profile app, this Python interface can be used to produce narrative listings on demand between major deliverables when ATOM datasets are refreshed. All links work as before, except that Jupyter Notebook Security requires right-clicking links and selecting options before they will display. To avoid this, buttons have been added for faster navigation. Lastly, the same cautionary note applies. If generated on updated ATOM datasets, these patient profiles are unvalidated. Validation of the patient profile delivery will follow existing industry standards and include visual inspection of output files along with double programming and comparison of the reporting datasets. It will be conducted using Python and organized within a Jupyter notebook. Running the notebook will perform the validation and produce status reports. The saved notebook is validation proof in a single file. The validation notebook begins with a hyperlinked table of contents for fast navigation. It contains a section for review and validation of individual subject narrative listings and a section for validation of all subjects' narrative listings, followed by validation status reports. It ends with a visual inspection of the bundled PDF and RTF files. Validation of the patient profiles will include 4 sections. 1. Visual inspection and validation for a single subject. This validation includes double programming and comparing the narrative reporting datasets, and it is coded in Python. 2. Validation for all subjects, including double programming and comparing of the narrative reporting datasets. This is also coded in Python. 3. Visual inspection of the bundled PDF file, which is bookmarked and hyperlinked. And 4. Visual inspection of the bundled RTF file, which is hyperlinked. This concludes Part 2 of a framework for end-to-end clinical trial reporting using open sources. We have presented a full working prototype for subject narrative/patient profile production and validation, including our Shiny and Python widgets interfaces for ad hoc reporting. My LinkedIn and email addresses are shown below. Feel free to contact me with any questions and/or concerns. Thank you for watching.